Welcome to the first episode of What's in Your Neighborhood? Conversations for the shame shifter in all of us. I'm Melanie Vargas, your host. What's in Your Neighborhood is a platform about exploring the landscapes within us, the hidden streets, quiet corners, and sometimes chaotic intersections of our inner worlds. Through storytelling, reflection, and conversation, we'll look at how these inner landscapes show up in times of challenge, how they've been shaped by personal and collective trauma, and how we can learn to listen, understand, and integrate them. This is a space for honesty, healing, and curiosity, not about it fixing ourselves or each other, but for meeting every part of who we are with compassion. In the midst of uncertainty and the weight of a shared global trauma, What's in Your Neighborhood offers pathways for self-discovery and resilience, reminding us that it's at the center where transformation begins. Today, in episode 1, I'll serve as your host and your guest while I explore what's in my neighborhood. How can I ask my guests to do what I have not been willing to do myself? Remove my masks, share from some of the parts hidden, be authentic, raw, and real. So today I'm sharing the story of how I was inspired by the neighborhood metaphor. Here's a little bit about me, the real me. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, a trauma survivor, and a woman in long-term recovery of 32 years. I'm also a senior executive coach, and consultant who has coached senior leaders from startups to Fortune 50 corporations across 5 continents. But today, that doesn't define me. My journey includes deep work and trauma-based therapeutic modalities alongside long-term recovery from alcoholism. I have experienced patterns of work addiction, burnout, imposter syndrome. Okay, and truth be told, a bit of shopping and sugar addiction as well. I learned as a child how to put on a mask every day, a costume to hide who I truly am, to shield my identity. I learned that these parts carried deep shame. I carried this into adulthood. What I have learned is that these patterns no longer serve me, my work, or the people I love. Last year, I wrote my story in the metaphor of a neighborhood. I had not planned to write a book. I had a moment of clarity, and I was deeply called to write the story. I was compelled by an internal pull. The story of my neighborhood unfolded with remarkable clarity and urgency, and I completed the manuscript in just 3 months. At its heart, the book is a memoir, my personal story and lived experience of more than 40 years of trauma that carried deep shame. It's a story of how I come home to myself. It's written with the intention of not only witness, but language and meaning. It's a story of my path from adversity to agency. I share the name and the details of abuse, addiction, and trauma. We frequently keep these stories hidden in public narratives. When I began writing What's in Your Neighborhood, I thought I was documenting a journey I had already taken. I'd put in the work in therapy, recovery, faced the pain, and rebuilt. But writing about trauma has a way of taking you deeper into the subtle corners that healing work sometimes skips over. The book wasn't about finding myself in the past. It was about integrating all the versions of me that still live there. It was less like looking in a mirror and more like coming home to a body I didn't realize I had been missing. Writing the book took me deeper into my emotional neighborhood, but it was also incredibly cathartic and healing. While my story is deeply personal, it situates individual trauma with a broader cultural context, addressing collective experiences of burnout, grief, and emotional fragmentation during a time of widespread uncertainty. These are truths I see every day in my work inside organizations across the globe, and now it has become a movement for me. After decades of therapy and recovery, my real work started when I addressed unresolved trauma following a moment that I thought would shatter me. When one of my kids faced their own struggles with mental health and attempted suicide, it forced me to confront unresolved family-rooted trauma and everything I thought I knew about strength, success, and control. What followed was a deep, painful, and ultimately liberating journey into my neighborhood and how I made the journey home to my authentic self, to reclaiming agency, the messy, beautiful, complicated. I wrote this book not because I have it all figured out. I am still healing. I wanted to tell the truth, my truth, unfiltered and raw, part of being human in a world filled with uncertainty that often asks us to hide who we are. Many of us experience pain and hide who we are just to get through the day. We all need healing. My hope is that by sharing what's in my neighborhood, you'll start to explore your own with a little more compassion, courage, and curiosity. I was called to write my story during a beautiful moment A moment of clarity that followed by one simple but powerful coaching question, coach to coach. I'm going to be reading chapter 1 from the book I finished. Now it's about finding the courage and path to get it published. Chapter 1, What's in Your Neighborhood? The pivotal moment of realizing how tired I am of hiding. I have lived this life near death for most of my life, feeling lost and filled with fear for the people I love. Remembering the first time being here when I was a child, I had many experiences growing up with someone I love who had severe mental health struggles, including psychosis, suicidal ideation, multiple suicide attempts, eating disorder, self-harm, and watching that unfold in front of me. But the experience with it as a mother is indescribable. There is a feeling of powerlessness and heartbreak that simply no one can truly understand but another parent who has suffered from their child who wants to die. And the worst part, I have been here before. I wrote my first poem at age 52 after dropping my youngest son off at a mental health residential facility when he was just 13 years old. He had been severely depressed, suicidal, and unable to go to school. We had tried everything. After years of dealing with his older sister's mental health struggles, I felt lost as a parent. I felt broken. I felt responsible. As their mom, shouldn't I be able to help them or find resources to help them? Sitting at a park bench, I had this gut-wrenching fear deep inside my soul. It pulled so hard. I just sat there and stared at the people walking by. I recall there was some kind of art fair going on, but I couldn't hear anything that was happening. Tears streamed down my cheeks. I wanted to hide away from the pain. My heart was pounding. I felt like time was standing still, and yet, at the same time, I felt this deep pain that was simply unrecognizable, but also familiar. Shame, deep shame, fear, impending doom. It simply flowed out of me, stolen by darkness, by me. The world is spinning like a merry-go-round. All I hear is silence. Tears run down my face, something I can't replace. Sorrow in my heart. I failed him. I carried him once so sweetly in my womb, held him close to my heart. I knew I could keep him safe then. Yet still, I failed him. Darkness came and swept him away. The innocence that was once there, suddenly gone in an instant, as though I was swimming against the tide. I am sinking and can't breathe. Consumed with fear, I watch the darkness carry him away. The child I love, robbed of joy. Have you heard his laughter? I lay awake and pray for its return. Helpless and haunting, I am bound by liminality, waiting for my child to return. No matter how much I want to, I can't stop it. Stolen by darkness, my love for him is endless, but yet I still fail him. Poetry comes for me during painful times. But there have been a few moments that it has come from joy. If I can do it, so can you. Poetry is a release. Writing is a release. I'm not a gifted writer. I just have stuff to say, and writing is my creative release. You'll see other poetry throughout my story. They've never been seen by anyone except my husband and a few people close to me. It's true from curiosity, you can tap into creativity. But it can also be found from sitting in deep pain. If you allow yourself to feel it, and you need to have the courage to sit with it. If you truly sit with discomfort and feel the depth of it, true passion is right around the other side. It's the dawn after darkness thing. Pain is only temporary. There are gifts in our challenges, even the hardest ones. Remember that when you want to just skip past discomfort. We frequently want to rush past it and avoid it. Back to my neighborhood. The dreaded question. I've learned to embrace creativity. For someone who has spent most of their adult life focused on results and goals, I've learned in recent years that it is in the space of creativity where curiosity and possibility begins. I first learned about creativity in my coach training program at the Hudson Institute of Coaching, working with Susan Mann, gifted executive coach and facilitator. Susan opened this door for me. and gently invited me into a space of playfulness and creativity. When I allowed myself in, the magic started to unfold. The tragedies in my life didn't disappear, but creativity allowed me to reach new depths of understanding, connection, and resilience. So, I'm at the coaching conference. There are hundreds of us. Long tables are set up with white butcher paper stretched across them, colored pencils and paint scattered about. As a facilitator and organizational development professional, I already know I'm going to love it. We're doing an art activity linked to small group work. After a few impactful partnering activities, we get to the one all of us with complicated trauma-laden childhoods dread. I'm not going to recite the instructions exactly because I want to protect the anonymity of the amazing facilitators and their good work. It was something along these lines. Close your eyes and meditate for a few moments on your childhood neighborhood. What images or details come to mind? Draw on those memories. Think about your neighborhood and your childhood home. How would you describe it? The goal of the session is for us to work silently and independently to recall our childhood memories, our neighborhood, and our home. Next, we verbally share it in our triads. After this, we were instructed to draw each other's stories silently, creating art together. I'm guessing accessing these memories and emotions would foster meaningful conversations and connections within the group for many people. Not so much of us with trauma-rooted family origins. Truthfully, I don't recall many details about the instructions. I lost it at, think about your childhood neighborhood. I've been here before. I can usually fake my way through, but the pressure was on. My eyes were closed. My mind was blank. I could feel my amygdala hijack kicking in, cortisol rising, nothing in the brain. It was completely blank. The worst part, the person sitting across from me, who was also in my small group, was someone I wanted to impress. Someone I deeply admired, a fellow coach who had taught a session earlier at the conference. Suddenly, time was up, and we had to start sharing our neighborhood. I faked my way through with some stupid story about my sister and I making a frog farm when we were little, which probably had nothing to do with the instructions. But did I share the real story? No. Why is this moment pivotal? It was a turning point. I realized how long I had been hiding in my neighborhood. And at 55, I was tired of lying about it. Tired of making up stories. Tired of feeling like a fraud. Tired of feeling shame. Tired of wearing masks. Tired of painting a blue house pink and pretending there were flowers in the yard when there weren't any. Tired of acting my way through. I heard a few people stand up and bravely tell their real stories. I remembered Vince earlier that morning with the courage to stand up in front of hundreds of people, staking claim on his identity. I wanted to be like Vince. I wanted to be like them. I also realized there were probably others in the room who felt the same way I did. I wondered what was in their childhood neighborhoods. I wanted to be with them and to be brave, to share real, raw stories, to create our childhood neighborhoods together as they were and as they are today, to celebrate the healing in them, to unite in the past and the present, to honor our stories together. But I held back, just as I always did. The facilitators planted that first seed, but it was later that day in a peer coaching session around a fire that the real garden began to grow. A simple yet powerful question from another coach, Vince, pierced straight through my walls, where something cracked open deep inside me. I couldn't have known then that this question would stay with me, reshaping everything I thought I knew about myself. I didn't know it yet, but I was already crossing the bridge that would lead me home. Vince would ask me a question that cracked open everything I had been trying to hold together. Something shifted. For most of my life, I believed success was the only way to survive. My achievements defined me. If I could build the perfect house, wear the right mask, and keep every crack hidden, no one would see the chaos beneath. I didn't know yet how heavy the house had become or how hard I was working just to keep it from falling apart. That is where the next street begins, the house I built to hide in. Thank you for listening as I share a pivotal piece of my inner landscape in Chapter 1. This podcast is about the courage to share what shaped us, the terrain we've walked, the story we may have hidden or been too afraid to share. It's the storms we've navigated, the parts of ourselves we've had to meet in order to lead with clarity, courage, and conviction. In the episodes ahead, I'll be inviting guests to share their own neighborhoods, the landscapes that formed them. What I'm interested in hearing from my guests is this: where have you faced adversity? What did you learn? Where did you fail? Also, where did you find resilience? Where did you choose courage to sit in discomfort? Where did healing, in whatever form it took, make you stronger? And how has it brought you closer to home, to yourself? Leadership is forged in the quiet reckonings, the hard pivots, the messy middle. This first episode is my way of going first, of telling the truth before I ask anyone else to do the same. If this podcast is about exploring the inner landscapes that shape us, then I wanted to begin by opening the door to my own. My hope is that somewhere in my neighborhood, you'll begin to recognize your own and meet it with a little more curiosity and compassion. My invitation is that these conversations expand how we think about strength, that they remove stigmatism and normalize growth. Most importantly, that they remind us that our inner work isn't separate from our leadership. It is the foundation of it. Thank you for being here in the beginning. If this resonated, please like, subscribe, or share it with someone who's doing their own inner work. I hope you join me in the next episode where I'll be walking down the streets with my first guest, Elise Bryson. Elise shares the defining moments that shaped her identity and the mask she had to shed. She is full of wisdom and shares deeply from the heart. She's also hilarious. Until then, keep tending to your own landscape. It matters more than you know.